Hello everyone, and welcome to this on-demand session where we will be talking about building custom clients for virtual events and virtual visits using Microsoft Graph, Microsoft Teams, and Azure Communication Services. My name is David DeMatthew. I am a Senior Product Manager with Azure Communication Services working on our Developer Experience team. I will be walking you through this presentation. The agenda for today will be for us to start by introducing what a custom client for M365 communication experiences are. We will then be walking through two examples using virtual visits and virtual events to talk about how this is accomplished. Before we go into more detail on how we build these communication experiences, let's start by setting some baseline on why they are important. Building these types of communication experiences enable you to connect with your customers in new and innovative ways. Building them is relatively complex. There's a lot of moving parts ranging from the actual communication stack, voice, video, and calling, as well as the other pieces around it like scheduling or sending appointments for your customers. Your service providers or employees, like doctors or presenters, want to make sure that the experiences are well integrated into their daily flows. In the case of a doctor who's maybe already using Teams or some type of application in their day-to-day activities, they don't want to have to leave that application to be able to connect with their patients. At the same time, your patients and customers are likely to be already using some type of application, whether it's your application where they access information for your business, or applications that they already know and love. And so bringing them together is key to enable them to have a really great experience. This is where Azure Communication Services, Microsoft Graph, and Microsoft Teams comes together to enable you to deliver cohesive experiences for your customers. You're able to leverage these three wonderful technologies to be able to build experiences that are well integrated across and that enable you to be able to have your service providers or employees remain on Microsoft Teams, an application that they already know and love and use in everyday activities, while allowing your customers to be able to remain on those custom applications that they already know how to use, whether it is an application that you've provided or others in the market. We will be exploring how this is accomplished across both virtual visits and virtual event scenarios. Before we go any deeper, I want to start by introducing what Azure Communication Services is. You might already be familiar with technologies like Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Graph, but Azure Communication Services might be a new technology for you. Azure Communication Services is a managed communications platform offered through Azure. It encompasses a number of core services, including voice and video calling, chat, telephony, SMS, and email, which we actually just announced. Azure Communication Services enables you to be able to build experiences that work across multiple different devices and platforms, enabling you to have a unified experience across your customers. It supports a number of different communication scenarios, like virtual visits and virtual events, which we'll be talking more about today, but also customer interactions and marketing and notifications through technologies like SMS, PSTN, and email. Azure Communication Services enables you to interconnect across the Microsoft 365 and Azure clouds. On the Azure side, it enables you to take advantage of technologies like telemetry and cognitive services to integrate into your applications. On the M365 cloud, Azure Communication Services interoperates with technologies like Teams and Graph. Going deeper into Teams interoperability, this enables you to be able to build experiences that integrate with existing Teams experiences. It enables you to build custom clients with Azure Communication Services that can interconnect into the Teams data plane, meaning you can have a customer that is on Teams and a customer who is on Azure Communication Services talking to each other inside of the same communications experience. As part of Azure Communication Services, we offer a comprehensive UI library that allows you to be able to build faster and maintain your applications. The UI library is customizable, accessible, localizable, and responsive, and it is available across web and native mobile platforms. To learn more, go to aka.ms/ACS UI library, where you can check it out. As part of our UI library, we also offer a design kit that enables designers to be able to build communications applications that are compatible with Azure Communication Services. This makes it easy for them to get started and be able to build beautiful experiences. To learn more about our design kit, go to aka.ms/ACS design kit. We're now going to dive into the two scenarios that we started with at the beginning of the presentation, starting with virtual visits and then virtual events. Imagine for a second that we're building a healthcare virtual visit experience to enable doctors and patients to connect. To accomplish that, we need to allow patients to schedule time with their doctors. We also need to enable doctors and patients to connect on a call. Microsoft today offers multiple different options for you to be able to build this type of experience. Starting with scheduling, we offer the ability for you to leverage Microsoft Graph to be able to schedule events inside of an M365 calendar. We offer both Microsoft Bookings, which is a turnkey scheduling solution, or Microsoft Graph APIs, which allow you to be able to create a custom scheduling UI for yourself. You could also bring your fully custom scheduling solution to the table as well, and that would also work as part of what we're trying to build. For the calling experience, for both doctors and patients, you would have also two options. You would be able to either leverage Microsoft Teams, which is a rich client for communications, or you would be able to leverage Azure Communication Services to build a custom communications experience. Teams is great for your service providers, for example, like your doctors, that might already be using it today in their day-to-day activities. For your patients, it might be more cumbersome to be able to use Teams, as they might have to launch an entire different client to be able to join the meeting. And that's where Azure Communication Services could be more useful in order to allow you to be able to create a custom experience that could be directly embedded into your existing application or site. We're excited to announce that starting at Build, we're launching a new sample builder for virtual visits that enables you to be able to quickly configure and deploy a virtual visit solution with appointment scheduling and voice and video capabilities that is powered by Azure Communication Services and Microsoft Bookings. This sample builder and the virtual visit solution within enables you to very quickly set up an experience that enables your doctors and patients to connect as per our example. Before we go deeper into how this solution works, let's take a step back and talk a little bit about the architecture behind it. Here, as we talked in the introduction slide, we have both an end user and a service provider that are trying to talk to one another. And we're enabling this type of experience through Azure Communication Services, which enables the end user on a custom client to be able to connect with their service provider or doctor who's using Teams. We're leveraging Microsoft Bookings as the scheduling solution to be able to enable that end user to be able to schedule a calendar invite with that service provider. Microsoft Bookings is a turnkey service that enables you to quickly set up and configure your booking solution and deploy it out to production. Once we have this entire architecture set up, we're going to be enabling our end users to schedule appointments with their doctors, be able to have that doctor and that patient then join that same meeting through Azure Communication Services and the other one through Teams. We'll start by taking a look at the final product that the solution enables. In this video, you can actually see how it enables you to be able to book an appointment directly with your doctor. Here you can see a scheduling UI where I'm able to choose the staff member that I want to have my appointment with, the time and place that I want my appointment at, and be able to feed my information to book my appointment. Once the time for the appointment comes, I'm able to, through the same type of experience, be able to join the call with my doctor. Here you can see that I joined the call and I'm put on a in a waiting room to wait for my doctor to join as well. Once my doctor joins, I'm able to now talk to them through the same experience. Me using a custom application and them on a Microsoft Teams client. Let's now go a little bit deeper into looking at how we're enabling this experience behind the scenes. Going back to the diagram that we talked about before, we'll start by talking about the scheduling and bookings experience that you saw in the demo before. This all starts by creating a Microsoft Booking solution. Here you can see a Microsoft Booking solution that I've already pre-deployed. In this solution, I've already configured some of the services and staff that are available to book with. You can also see that I've configured a booking page, which we will later be embedding into our solution. We're now going to jump over to showing how we enable the solution itself using the sample builder for Azure Communication Services. The sample builder lives directly on the Azure portal. It enables you to be able to configure the solution with only a couple clicks, no code needed. You can see that I can paste in here the booking page URL that we got from the booking solution that I had deployed, and I'm then able to configure things like chat, screen sharing, as well as themes, colors, logos, as well as the language that's shown across the lobby experience. Once I'm ready to deploy, all I have to do is click one button, and I have the solution running on Azure. This experience enables doctors and patients, in our example, to connect together, be able to schedule appointments, and join those appointments, the patient through a custom experience and the doctor using Microsoft Teams. We're now going to jump over to talk about virtual events. Similar to our experience with virtual visits, let's imagine for a second that we're building a virtual events management platform. Let's say that I'm trying to build something so that I'm able to schedule events as an organizer and be able to have attendees and hosts and presenters join those events. Similar to virtual visits, for virtual events, we also have options available to us. For the organizer experience, organizers could be either leveraging their Microsoft Teams client, for example, to schedule events directly. They could also be using Microsoft Graph and APIs to build some type of custom scheduling application. Alternatively, there could also be a fully custom application that developers could bring. For the attendee experience, similarly, attendees could also be joining through Teams, or they could be joining through Azure Communication Services using some type of custom experience. This is the same case for hosts and presenters. In this case, when trying to build an event management platform, one of the key requirements is to enable to get attendees and organizers to be able to stay within the platform as much as possible, given that many times platforms have other types of gamification or engagement features that they want to use for those events. That's why for the example that we're going to be talking about next, for the organizer experience, we're going to be using Microsoft Graph in order to be able to schedule the events through a custom UI directly on the platform. We're then going to be using Azure Communication Services for the attendee experience in order to make sure that attendees never have to leave the platform and are able to stay within. Finally, for hosts and presenters, we will be leveraging Microsoft Teams to ensure that hosts and presenters have a feature-rich experience to be able to deliver the best type of content to their audiences. We're now going to go into a bit of a demo where we're going to be showing how this works. Before we go too deep in the demo, I want to start by presenting a similar architecture diagram to explain the different pieces that we're going to be building. The first aspect is the organizer experience and enabling organizers to be able to schedule events using Microsoft Graph. We're then going to be looking at how we build a custom experience for users so that they never have to leave the platform and are able to stay within. We're actually going to be using Azure Communication Services email service to be able to send reminders to those attendees that they've registered for an event. Finally, we're going to be interconnecting everything so that both attendees and presenters are able to join the same events using Azure Communication Services Teams interoperability. Let's now take a look at what this experience looks like end-to-end. Here, we've set up an example event management platform, Contoso Events. To start with, I will sign into my profile. You can see that my information has been populated using my M365 account. And we're going to set up the event to be happening later this afternoon. I'm going to enable registration for this event as I want to be able to control who is able to attend, and I want to make sure that people register for it. Once I've configured the event and created, I get a registration link for that event. This is the registration link that you can share with your attendees so that they can also register for the event that you've just created. Here, you can see that I'm registering for the event using my email address. Once I register for the event, I actually see that an email registration has been sent to my email. This email is sent using Azure Communication Services email service. At the same time, I get a unique join link created after registration. This join link enables me to be able to join that event through the Contoso Events platform directly without having to leave. At the same time, you can see here that the event has been successfully created on my Teams calendar. Here, as a presenter, I can go in and actually start the event. You can see that I now can look at the participant list and see that the attendee that's on the Contoso Events platform is asking to be accepted. Once I've accepted them, you can see that directly here on the Contoso Events platform, I'm able to join that same event as an attendee and be able to watch the presenter. We're now going to go deeper into looking at how this is built. And so we're going to be starting with the first piece, which is scheduling the event. Before we go deeper into the code, I want to start by introducing the flow of events that we're going to be using for scheduling. We're going to be leveraging 3 graph APIs as part of this scheduling and registration flow. The first API that we're going to be using is the Create Event API. We're then going to be using the Online Meetings API offered by Graph. And then finally, we're going to be using a new API that's currently in preview for external registration. Using these 3 APIs, I'll be able to create the event, get that event's information, and then create a registration so that registration becomes required as part of the event. Here in the code, to create a new event, I'm starting by collecting information to be able to create it, starting with the start date, end date, and the body. I'm also setting properties for this event to be an online meeting, as well as setting my meeting provider to be Teams for Business. Once I have that done, I'm then able to create the flow that we talked about before of creating the event, getting the meeting, and creating the registration for that event. Let's take a look a little bit deeper into that. Starting with the Create Event, I leveraged the Events API from Microsoft Graph in order to be able to create my event. I set up my preferred time zone to be Pacific, as that is where my event will take place, and I pass in the information that we had collected. Once I've created the event, I then I look for the join URL from that event, and I pass it in to be able to get my online meeting. We need this meeting to be able to get the meeting ID in order to create the registration. And so I use the Online Meetings API and filter to the join web URL that we got from the Create Event API. Finally, we create the registration using that meeting ID that we got from the Online Meetings API. As I create the registration, I leverage the External Meetings Registration API. I set the allowed registrants to be everyone so that anyone can register for my event, and I then pass in that meeting ID that we got when we got the online meeting in the last piece. Once I have these steps done, I can now start registering participants into my event. The next pieces that we're going to be exploring is the actual ability for us to register users or attendees for my event. We're also going to be taking a look at how we're using Azure Communication Services to send an email reminder to those attendees. Here in the code, you can see the register attendee flow that we've created. I'm starting by collecting the email address for my attendees so that I can not only send them the email reminder, but also use that as registration information. In order to register those attendees, I'm leveraging the External Meeting Registrant API, and I'm using that email address that we're collecting as the ID for the attendee to register with. I'm then passing that information into the API in order to register each attendee. Once they've been registered, I then go ahead and I send them a reminder email using Azure Communication Services email service in order to remind them that the event is taking place and that they've been registered. Let's actually take a look at how that's working behind the scenes. Taking a look behind the scenes, how we're sending the email, I'm using the Communication Email SDK for C# here. I'm then taking that email address that we collected from the attendee, as well as the web join URL that we got, and I'm then passing that into my email function in order to be able to send them an email with that information. Here you can see that I'm configuring the content of the email to have that link that we got for the event. And I'm also then using the email address that we got from the attendee in order to be able to send them an email with the registration information. Once I've configured these things, I can then go ahead and send them the email, which will give them a notification for the registration that they just performed. For the final piece of the experience, we're now going to be looking at how we leverage Azure Communication Services Teams interoperability in order to enable attendees to be able to join the Teams event that we've created directly through the Contoso events platform without the need for them to leave. At the same time, we're going to be enabling presenters to use their Microsoft Teams client directly to be able to start the events and have them join with the attendees. For this experience, we're going to be leveraging the Azure Communication Services UI library. This UI library allows you to embed an attendee experience into your application with only a couple lines of code. We're going to be specifically using the Call with Chat composite that brings both calling and chat capabilities that are supported for Teams interoperability. Before we go into the code, I wanted to start by just giving a quick flow inside of our storybook for Azure Communication Services UI library. This is a great resource that developers can use to learn more about how the UI library works, as well as see the different components that we offer in order for them to build their experiences. Let's now go into the code so that you can see how everything comes together. For the final piece of the puzzle, we're embedding into the Contoso events platform the communications experience directly. Here, we're leveraging the UI library and specifically the call composite in order to embed that experience. We're starting by initializing that composite by getting Azure Communication Services credentials in order to join. This includes an access token, which you can get from the service. Once we have that access token, we go ahead and create the adapter in order to start that call composite. With only a couple lines of code, I'm able to configure the adapter and pass in that access token that we've created. I also pass in the URL to the event, which we got from our registration flow. With that URL, I'm then able to initialize the call composite in only a couple lines of code and embed a full communications experience directly into my application. Throughout this presentation, we've shown you a multitude of options that you have at your disposal in order for you to build custom clients that operate with the M365 cloud across scenarios like virtual visits and virtual events. These types of communications experiences can be enabled through options like Microsoft Teams that enables you to use a rich full client, Microsoft Graph that allows you to extend the capabilities for scheduling and the control plane, and Azure Communication Services that enables you to access the data plane for communications for both calling and chat within a custom application. Using these three pieces, you have a multitude of options of how to piece them together and create your own applications that allow your providers and employees to remain on existing applications that they use, as well as have experiences for your customers that are unique and tailored for your needs. We want to leave you with a number of resources for you to get started today, starting with tutorials for both virtual visits and virtual events that walk through what we just talked about today, and they go into more detail as to how you too could get started. We also want to leave you with some more in-depth documentation on what Azure Communication Services is and how you can leverage it, including our UI library that has many more components at your disposal, as well as our newly released email service. Thank you very much for watching.